Chapter 10. Off topic. 2 days passed quickly. During this time, Liu Feng familiarized himself with the campus during the day and practiced his swift sword art at night. The first form, Gale's sword, had become much more proficient. Unbeknownst to him, the time for the entrance exam quietly arrived. That day, Liu Feng was still sound asleep when Bai Guobing woke him up. Since outsiders weren't allowed to stay inside the academy, Bai Guobing usually stayed outside and only came to remind Liu Feng for major events like the entrance exam. This time, his timing was right. If no one had woken Liu Feng, he probably would have slept until noon, having long forgotten about any exams. What's the rush? The exam questions must be incredibly simple. I can finish them in minutes, Liu Feng said with a yawn, seemingly displeased with Bai Guobing's urging. Bai Guobing said helplessly, "All right, young master, you're already late. After one incense stick burns, no more candidates will be allowed in. If you don't hurry, you won't even have a chance to get into yellow class." The Xianzhou Academy had extremely strict rules. For major events like the entrance exam, anyone found absent would be directly expelled without any room for discussion.
What?
It's already this late? Why didn't you say so earlier? Liu Feng instantly jolted awake. How could he dare to hesitate for a moment? He quickly sprinted towards the lecture hall. He certainly didn't want to be expelled right at the start of the semester. Otherwise, when he returned to Kanglin County, Lu Tianchen would surely beat him to death. Watching Liu Feng's fleeting figure, Bai Guobing couldn't help but shake his head. When would this young master of his ever stop causing worry? The entrance exam was held in the Wanian Garden in the center of the academy. When Liu Feng rushed to the examination hall, he was surprised to find that everyone was already writing their answers. Glancing at the late Liu Feng, the invigilator frowned and said, "What's going on? You're only just arriving after the exam has been going on for so long. Do you want to be expelled?" I'm sorry, I accidentally overslept." Liu Feng could only brace himself and step forward, giving a few dry laughs. Ha 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 ha. As soon as Liu Feng finished speaking, a burst of laughter erupted in the examination hall. The invigilator's expression turned somewhat grim, and he asked in a deep voice, "What is your name?" "Student Liu Feng," Liu Feng replied, cupping his hands. As soon as these words were uttered, they immediately caused an uproar among the candidates.
What?
"Is he the author of that poem?" jinsed Liu Feng. "It seems there's only one person named Liu Feng in the entire academy, so it must be him." Amazing! No wonder he dared to be late. With his talent, passing the entrance exam is simply a piece of cake. A flicker of surprise also crossed the invigilator's eyes. He had heard of the poem Jints. To this day, he found it hard to believe that this poem was written by a student. The concept within it was something even he, a professor of the empire for over a decade, couldn't fully grasp. Could a 16-year-old youth truly comprehend it? Seeing no reaction from the other party, Liu Feng could only remind him, "Sir, may I take my seat?" Take your seat and start the exam." Interrupted by Liu Feng's words, the invigilator finally reacted and nodded. On the desk, paper and pen were already prepared. After Liu Feng sat down, he looked around and quickly spotted a familiar figure in the upper right corner. It was Yi Xianxian. Liu Feng's eyes lit up. So, she's also a new student. He had originally thought that with Yi Xuanxuan's talent, she should have been at Xianzhou Academy for quite some time, but he hadn't expected the reality to be the exact opposite. Unlike Liu Feng, who plagiarized ancient poets, Yi Xianxian truly composed a poem in a short amount of time that day, and the realm of that cherry blossom poem was also very high. A talented woman is indeed a talented woman. Liu Feng didn't continue to focus on Yi Xianxian. Instead, he turned his attention to the exam paper. He would finish the exam first. After that, he could look at beauties all he wanted. However, when he saw the only question on the paper, he was completely stunned. The exam paper prominently displayed only one line of text. "Please recite from memory Master Gu's Li Zhuan Seeking Knowledge chapter and translate the entire text." Gu Mucheng? What, Li Zhuan? And Seeking Knowledge chapter? Liu Feng's gaze became blank. Of course, he knew Gu Mucheng. This old man was the most learned person in the entire Northern Snow Empire. Even the emperor respectfully called him teacher. He was undoubtedly the object of reverence for all scholars, regarded as the sage of sages. Of course, the former Liu Feng only knew of this person because Liu Tianchen would often force him to memorize Master Gu's great works. Unfortunately, he hadn't memorized a single piece. Just this one question? Liu Feng flipped the exam paper back and forth several times, finally giving up in frustration. The entire paper contained only this one line of text, with no extra words. Damn it, this is a scam. At this moment, Liu Feng was practically going crazy. It was truly hitting where it hurt. Any other question would be better than memorization. And memorizing a chapter from the Yi Li Zhuan? Are you kidding me? It's not Li Bai's quiet night thoughts, for crying out loud. He couldn't write a single word. What was he to do? Liu Feng couldn't help but look around and found that, apart from a few seasoned students, almost everyone was writing furiously. Some had even filled an entire page, and were starting on the second. Am I, this great talent, going to end up in yellow class? No, this absolutely cannot happen. Having been a genius for less than 2 days, he was about to be exposed. How could Liu Feng be willing to accept this? But he couldn't write a single word. What method could he use to have a chance at a miraculous comeback? Time ticked by minute. Less than a quarter of an hour remained until the end of the exam. I've got it. Liu Feng's eyes lit up. He suddenly thought of a good idea that might allow him to bluff his way through. Although he couldn't memorize the Yi Li, he could copy poems. Thinking this, Liu Feng, without a second thought, immediately picked up his brush and began writing with a flourish, his characters like a dragon and phoenix dancing. Last year today, within the store, human face and peach blossoms reflected red. The human face, I know not where it went, peach blossoms still smile in the spring breeze. In a few strokes, a poem by Chui who, on the south village of the capital, leaped onto the paper, 28 characters, incredibly concise. Although this poem was not as mysterious as Jin's, it showcased an entirely different concept. It was a small story of an encounter, yet many people might have had such a life experience, encountering something beautiful by chance, unintentionally, but when one consciously seeks it out, it can never be recovered. The brilliance of this poem lies precisely in the 4 words re-seeking without meeting, presenting a vivid picture. If that examiner isn't blind, he should at least give me a high score. Liu Feng's lips curved slightly upwards. He was very confident that with this timeless masterpiece, getting into Class A would basically be no problem. After all, the works of those ancient poets from his previous life, even when brought to this world, were unparalleled masterpieces that ordinary people could simply not achieve. Just as Liu Feng was secretly feeling pleased, the 2-hour examination time ended. Everyone else submitted exam papers filled with writing, while his paper had only 4 lines of small characters, standing out prominently. Chapter 11 Black Cloud Wilderness. Huiyuan Building is the central building of the entire Xianzhou Academy. Professors usually work in this building, and entrance exam papers are graded here. At this moment, the lobby on the 2nd floor was filled with a series of noisy sounds, as if people were arguing about something. This poem is exquisite in every word, a masterpiece of nature. I don't think even the scholars of Xuejing City could compose such a poem. Since this student named Liu Feng is so talented, he should be admitted to the top class. The speaker was a middle-aged man with a square face, looking at the exam paper in his hand with great satisfaction. I disagree. The essay is irrelevant to the topic and does not answer the question. The topic we set was Master Gu's essay on seeking knowledge, but he wrote a poem instead. This is clearly a contempt for the academy and for us professors. That's right. Liu Feng is arrogant and conceited. If he gets into the top class, he will probably become even more arrogant in the future, which will not be good for his own future development. The 2 who jumped out to refute him were both elderly professors, who were clearly very dissatisfied with Liu Feng's act of writing poetry, considering it a great disrespect to them. The square-faced middle-aged man frowned, turned his gaze to the man beside him, and asked, "Mr. Su, what do you think?" This man was none other than Mr. Su Zhongshu, the proctor of the entrance examination that day, and also the most learned person in Xianzhou Academy. The others also turned their attention to Su Zhongshu, wanting to see what he would say. "Let him go to the yellow class," Su Zhongshu said calmly, raising his eyes slightly. As soon as he finished speaking, the elderly professors all nodded with smiles. It seemed that Mr. Su was also quite dissatisfied with that young man. However, this smile didn't last long before Su Zhongshu spoke again. "However, starting tomorrow, I will be teaching in the yellow class." "What?" Everyone was quite surprised. Su Zhongshu didn't answer, but walked out the door alone, muttering to himself, "Utterly pedantic. Even if you add up all the top-tier students, they still can't compare to a genius like the poet immortal." The other teachers couldn't help but look at each other in bewilderment. The most learned person in the entire academy was teaching the worst class. What kind of nonsense was this? The square-faced, middle-aged man nodded and smiled. It seems Mr. Su values that kid quite a bit. Just one day later, the exam results were released and posted on the honor roll outside Huiyun Building. On this day, a large number of students gathered around the honor roll, forming a dense crowd that made it impossible to move, and more people kept arriving from all directions. There were not only freshmen but also upperclassmen who wanted to see which of the freshmen were the most outstanding and how their overall quality compared to their own class. Excuse me. On the periphery of the crowd, a white figure was trying his best to squeeze in. This figure was Liu Feng, but unfortunately, no matter how hard he tried, he was still blocked on the outside. Liu Feng had a sudden inspiration and shouted, "Hey, isn't that Yi Xian? She's only wearing pajamas today." This shout immediately exploded in the crowd like gunpowder being ignited. "What? Where is it? Where is it? Damn it, it's a scam." Taking advantage of the distraction, Liu Feng immediately moved as if he were in an empty field and rushed to the honor roll, where he began searching for his name. This honor roll is arranged according to exam scores, from highest to lowest, totaling 100 people, with 25 people from each of the heaven, earth, black, and yellow classes. The first place on the list was very eye-catching, clearly displaying the three large characters, Yi Xian. "What? Why wasn't it me?" Liu Feng was stunned. His masterpiece, the poem he wrote about the southern village of the capital, had actually failed? This didn't make sense. Gritting his teeth, Liu Feng quickly calmed down. "Forget it, if I didn't get first place, I didn't get it. It'll just keep me low-key. It doesn't matter whether you get first place or not, as long as you can get into the top class." In Liu Feng's view, first, second, and 15th place are the same. "Huh? My name isn't in the top 10. What? My name isn't in the top 25 either." Liu Feng opened his eyes wide, rubbed them hard, and searched carefully again, but still couldn't find his name. How is that possible? Could it be that we really encountered a blind examiner, or that the examiner was illiterate and simply did not understand the meaning of the poem? Fine, I can tolerate the Earth class. Although the Earth class was inferior to the Heaven class, it still contained at least some scholars, albeit second best. After comforting himself, Liu Feng continued to gaze at the list. However, he soon suffered another major blow, because his name was not found on the list of the Earth class. This is impossible. Did I misspell the name? Liu Feng's face was filled with disbelief. The next moment, he felt extremely indignant. It was one thing for a talented person like him not to be in the top class, but he wasn't even in the bottom class. It was simply outrageous. Just then, a woman's voice suddenly came from the side. It's not surprising that Yi Xian is first, but what's strange is that the talented Liu Feng is last in the yellow class. With his talent, it shouldn't be like this, a female student said to her companion. Last place? Liu Feng suddenly looked up, his gaze locking onto the last name on the honor roll, where two incredibly familiar words were clearly written. Liu Feng. I'm actually last place? He was a top student for only 2 days, and then he became last place. Is that reasonable? Of course, Liu Feng wasn't the kind of person who was obsessed with grades. He wanted to get into the top class simply to make a name for himself, and if he couldn't get in, so be it. After leaving the crowd, Liu Feng hadn't gone far when he noticed a beautiful blue figure appearing not far ahead, waving at him. Yi Xianxian. A strange look flashed in Liu Feng's eyes. He had recently heard about Yi Xuanxuan's personality, which could be described as very aloof. She never took the initiative to greet any boy. Why did she change her personality today? Is there something you need? Liu Feng asked as he approached the other person. Yi Xianxian merely glanced at him and said indifferently, "Have you seen the rankings?" "I saw it." "Why go to the yellow class program?" Upon hearing this, Liu Feng couldn't help but secretly grumble to himself. Whether or not he could get into the yellow class was not something he could decide. He really wanted to get into the heaven class, but the school just wouldn't give him the chance. However, Liu Feng naturally wouldn't reveal what he was thinking, but instead said expressionlessly, "I just like it." After a moment's hesitation, Yi Xianxian turned and left, leaving only one sentence behind her. "I will also be attending the yellow class tomorrow." Liu Feng was startled. "Why?" "I just like it." Watching her retreating figure, Liu Feng's lips curled into a smile. This woman really has a personality. Whether he goes to class tomorrow depends on his mood. He's getting a bit tired of being in this university and wants to go out for a walk. The next day, the classroom for the yellow class was located in the most remote part of the academy because there were hardly any people in it to begin with. The yellow class consisted mostly of seasoned students from aristocratic families who were notorious for skipping classes. It was considered good if there were at least 10 students in class. However, the classroom was packed today with almost no one absent. The reason for this was, of course, the arrival of someone they had been longing to see all day, Yi Xianxian. These people never dreamed that their goddess would actually come to class here today, so after hearing the news, almost everyone came to class on time, and not a single person was late. However, they only dared to peek from the sidelines, not to swarm around like flies. After all, Yi Xianxian was a 5th-level swordsman, and unless they were tired of living, no one would dare to provoke her. However, Yi Xianxian felt somewhat disappointed because Liu Feng still hadn't appeared in the classroom. "The teacher is here." A series of unhurried footsteps came from outside the door, and the classroom quickly fell silent. However, when the students saw who it was, they couldn't help but gasp in surprise. It's Mr. Su Zhongshu. Am I seeing things? Mr. Su is actually here to give us a lecture? Normally, the lecturers who come to teach in the Huang class are the lowest-ranking lecturers in the academy. These students rarely even see the other professors, let alone this Mr. Su. For a moment, they felt completely bewildered. It's actually Mr. Su. Yi Xianxian was also somewhat surprised. "Hello, students." Mr. Su smiled as he looked around the classroom, but his smile quickly faded as he asked, Where's Liu Feng? He didn't come to class?" After the words were spoken, the classroom fell silent. No one spoke. After a long while, a girl stammered, "Sir, Liu Feng, he seems to have asked for leave." "This is the leave slip. He asked me to give it to you." This girl was the one who recited her lessons outside Liu Feng's house all day long. A leave slip. Mr. Su was taken aback. What was a leave slip? Nevertheless, he asked the girl to bring it up. It was clearly a piece of paper with the following written on it. "Hello, sir. I plan to take a month's leave to go to the Black Cloud Wilderness. I will definitely return on time after a month. Please do not tell my father. Thank you for your cooperation." Meanwhile, in Liu Feng's dormitory, Bai Guobing was holding an identical note. After reading it, his expression changed and he muttered, "Young master actually went to Black Cloud Wilderness alone. That's a dangerous place." Just
Chapter
then,
12,
a
heading to
woman's
Starry
voice suddenly
Ancient
came
City.
from the side.
300 miles
It's not
west
surprising
of
that Yi
City
Xianxian is
lies
first,
the desolate
but
wilderness
what's strange
of
is
Black
that the
Cloud.
talented Liu Feng
Blackrock
is
Town
last
is
in
an
the yellow
oasis
class.
town
With
standing
his
in the
talent,
wilderness.
It shouldn't
It
be
has
like
fewer
this.
than 1,000 households,
A female
so the
student
town
said
is
to
not
her
large.
companion.
It is
Last
surrounded by
place,
a wooden fence
Liu
to
Feng
protect it
suddenly
from
looked
attacks
up,
by
his
wild
gaze
beasts.
locking onto the
As
last
sun
name on the
set,
honor
a
roll.
young figure
where
entered
two
the town,
incredibly familiar
bathed
words
in its
were
afterglow.
clearly written.
According to
Liu
the treasure
Feng.
map,
I'm actually
Blackstone
last
Town
place.
is less than
He was a
50
top
miles
student
away
for only
from
2 days,
Starshine
and then
Ancient
he
City.
became last
If
place.
we speed up our horses
Is that
tomorrow,
reasonable? We should be able to get there.
Liu Feng wasn't
The young man was obsessed with grades. He learned from many adventurers along the way that there was a rumor that a starry ancient city was buried deep in the black cloud
After leaving the
wilderness,
crowd,
filled with
Liu
gold,
Feng hadn't gone
silver,
far when he
and
noticed
jewels,
a beautiful
jade
blue
and
figure
emeralds.
appearing not far
However,
ahead. What
waving at
attracted
him
him was not
Yi
these things,
Xianxian,
but the sword manuals
a strange
and
look
elixirs
flashed
in
in
Liu
starry
Feng's
ancient
eyes.
city.
He
The
had
fact
recently
that
heard
Xingyao
about
ancient
ancient
city
Xuanchuan's
is buried in the
personality,
wilderness,
which could
is
be
no
described
secret
as
within a
very
radius
aloof.
of hundreds of miles.
She never took the
This
initiative
treasure
to greet
map
any
was
boy.
also bought by
Why
Liu
did she
Feng in a
change her
nearby
personality
main city.
today?
It
Is
is
there
not
something
very
you
accurate
need?
and only
Liu
provides
Feng
general
asked
directions.
as he approached the other
In the
person.
northern snow
Yi
continent,
Xianxian merely
swordsmanship
glanced
is
at him
divided
and
into
said
3
indifferently,
levels:
"Have you
heaven,
seen the rankings?
earth, and human."
I saw it.
As for the classification
Why go to the
of
yellow
swords
class
and
program?
equipment,
Upon
it is more
hearing
complicated.
this,
Divided
Liu Feng
into
couldn't
3
help
levels:
but secretly
treasure
grumble to
artifact,
himself.
Tao artifact,
Whether or
and
not he
sacred
could get
artifact.
into the yellow class
However,
was not something
treasure
he could
artifacts
decide.
are generally
He really
only
wanted to
used
get into
by
the
sword
heaven class,
masters,
but the school
ordinary
just wouldn't give
swordsmen
him the
use
chance.
ordinary ones
However,
that do not meet the
Liu
required
Feng
grade.
naturally wouldn't reveal
Legend
what he
has
was
it that in
thinking,
ancient times,
but instead
a
said
large
expressionlessly,
sect called Star
"I
Palace
just like it."
was once
After a
established
moment's
in
hesitation,
Star Radiance
Yi
ancient city.
Xianxian turned
However,
and left.
as time
Leaving
went by,
only one
it
sentence
disappeared
behind her.
along with Star
I will
Radiance
also be attending
ancient
the yellow
city.
class tomorrow.
Therefore, many people
Liu Feng
speculate
was
that the
startled.
relics of Star
Why?
Palace should also be
I just
in
like
Star
it.
Radiance ancient
Watching
city.
her retreating figure,
In addition,
Liu
the
Feng's
discovery
lips
of
curled
many
into a
magical
smile.
artifacts and
This woman
elixirs in
really
recent
has a
years
personality.
has further strengthened
Whether he
the
goes to
adventurer's
class tomorrow
confidence.
depends on his mood.
Liu Feng was
He's getting a
already
bit
tired of being
weary
in this
of the
university
monotonous
and wants to
academic
go out
life.
for a walk.
His
The
main
next
purpose
day,
in coming to
the classroom
Kendo
for
Academy
the yellow class
was to
was
avoid the
located
threat
in the
from
most
Liu
remote
Yuan
part
by
of
the
the
academy,
academy,
because
now
there
that
were
he had
hardly
achieved
any
his
people
goal
in it to begin
there
with.
was no need
The
for
yellow
him
class
to stay
consisted
any
mostly
longer.
of seasoned students
Anyway,
from
there are
aristocratic
still a few
families
months
who were
until
notorious
this year's
for
imperial
skipping
examination.
It was
He can
considered
just go
good
and
if
take
there
the
were
exam
at
when the
least
time
10
comes.
students in class.
The imperial
However,
examination
the
is in the
classroom
form
was packed
of
today
poetry
with
and
almost
prose,
no one absent.
which he has plenty
The
of
reason for
knowledge
this
in
was,
his head.
of course,
There is
the
no
arrival
need
of
for him
someone
to
they had
study
been
at
longing
the
to see
Shenzhou
all
Academy.
day. Let's
Yi
rest here
Xianxian.
for today.
These people
Leading
never
his
dreamed
white
that their
maned
goddess
horse,
would actually
Liu
come to
Feng
class here
walked
today.
along the main
So
road
after
of
hearing
the
the
small
news,
town.
almost
The
everyone
town's
came to
environment
class
was
on
not
time,
good,
and not
the
a single
roads were
person was late.
potholed dirt slabs,
However,
and there was an
they only
atmosphere
dared to
of
peek
decay
from the sidelines,
everywhere.
not
Whenever
to swarm
someone
around
rode by
like
on
flies.
horseback,
After
the dust
all,
they kicked up would
Yi
fill the sky
Xianxian was a
and make it
fifth-level
hard to
swordsman,
breathe.
and
Despite
unless they
the
were
harsh
tired of
environment,
living,
the
no one would
shops on
dare to
both
provoke
sides
her.
were bustling
However,
with activity.
Yi Xianxian
Adventurers from
felt
all
somewhat
over the world
disappointed
gathered here,
because
creating
Liu
a
Feng
lively
still
atmosphere.
hadn't appeared in the classroom.
Their destination
The
was
teacher is
undoubtedly
here.
the same.
A series
Starry
of
ancient
unhurried
city.
footsteps
Upon
came
entering
from
a
outside the
restaurant,
door,
Liu
and the
Feng
classroom
found a
quickly
seat by the
fell
window.
silent.
The restaurant
However,
was
when
a
the
melting
students
pot
saw who
of
it was,
all sorts of
they
people.
couldn't help but gasp
Places
in
like
surprise.
Blackrock Town are beyond the
Mr.
jurisdiction of the
Su
Northern Snow
Am
Empire.
I seeing things?
It's a world of
Mr.
adventures
Su is
where
actually
whoever
here
has
to
the
give us a
strongest
lecture
fist calls the shots.
Normally,
And
the
deaths
lecturers who
are
come to
commonplace.
teach in the Huang class
Soon,
are the lowest
Liu
ranking
Feng's
lecturers
appearance
in the
attracted
academy.
the attention of a
These
gaze,
students
the
rarely
owner
even
of
see
which
the other
revealed a
professors,
hint of
let alone
bloodlust
this
in his
Mr.
eyes.
Su.
For
This
a moment,
kid looks unfamiliar.
They felt completely
Judging from his
bewildered.
attire,
It's
he's
actually
probably
Mr.
from
Su.
some small family.
Yi Xianxian
With
was
such
also
low
somewhat
cultivation.
surprised.
Hello,
He thinks
students.
he can covet the treasures
Mr.
of
Su
starry
smiled
ancient
as he
city.
looked around the classroom.
He's really
But
courting
his
death.
smile quickly faded
The
as he
speaker
asked,
was a burly man with
where's
triangular
Liu Feng?
eyes. His
He didn't
gaze
come
was
to
fixed
class.
on Liu Feng
After
like
the
a
words were
venomous
spoken,
snake.
the
In his
classroom
opinion,
fell silent.
this kind of young man
No
from
one
a small
spoke.
family was
After a long while,
inexperienced
a girl
and weak,
stammered,
making
"Sir,
him the
Liu
easiest
Feng,
to deal with. He seems to have
should
asked
we-
for leave.
This
Beside him
is the leave
a short,
slip. He
thin
asked me
man
to give it to
stared
you.
intently at
This
Yi
girl was
Xian,
the one who
his
recited
eyes
her lessons
flashing with
outside
murderous
Liu Feng's
intent,
house all
and
day
made
long.
a murderous
A
gesture.
leave slip.
Wait
Mr.
a little
Su
longer.
was taken aback.
The burly
What was
man
a
shook
leave
his
slip?
head. There are too
Nevertheless,
many people in the
he
restaurant.
asked the girl to
If
bring
we
it
make
up.
a move now,
It was clearly
it will
a piece of
probably
paper
alert
with
a lot
the
of
following
people.
written on it.
To be on the safe
Hello,
side,
sir.
it's
I
better
plan
to
to take
wait
a
until
month's
this
leave
kid
to
leaves
go
town
to the
tomorrow
Black
before
Cloud
we make our
Wilderness.
move.
I will
The
definitely
wasn't the
return
first
on
time
time
he
after
committed
a month.
murder and robbery.
Please do not tell
If
my
he was
father.
going to do it,
Thank
he had to
you
do it
for your
flawlessly.
cooperation.
Otherwise,
Meanwhile,
if the news leaked
in
out,
Liu Feng's
it would
dormitory,
cause them a lot of
Bai
trouble.
Guobing was holding an
Boss is
identical
wise.
note. After
The
reading
short,
it,
his expression
thin man
changed,
smiled
and he muttered,
obsequiously,
"Young
while
master
looking at the boy
actually
at
went
the
to
window
Black
with a
Cloud
sinister
Wilderness
expression.
alone."
That's a dangerous place.
In
In
his
his eyes,
a
Liu
woman's
Feng
voice
was already a
suddenly
dead
came from the
man.
side.
So
It's
far,
not surprising that
among
Yi
those fat
Xianxian is
sheep they had
first,
targeted,
but what's
there were
strange
quite
is
a
that the
few
talented
signs
Liu
of noble
Feng is
families,
last in the yellow
but none of
class.
them had been
With
sent
his
to their
talent,
deaths. It shouldn't
Liu
be like
Feng's
this.
aura was not strong.
A female student
only
said
at the
to her
level of a
companion.
first or
Last
second-tier
place,
swordsman.
So
Liu
the
Feng
short,
suddenly looked up.
thin man was
His
not
gaze
worried at
locking
all that
onto
their
the last
operation
name
would
on the
fail.
honor roll.
Liu Feng,
where two
who was some
incredibly
distance
familiar
away,
words were
seemed to
clearly
sense
written.
something and glanced
Liu
at the
Feng.
triangular-eyed
I'm
man's
actually last
location.
place,
But
he was
only
a
for
top
a moment
student for
before
only 2
turning
days,
back.
and then
These two men have menacing looks on
Is
their
that
faces.
reasonable?
They've
Of
been
course,
watching me for
Liu
so
Feng
long.
wasn't the kind of person
They probably
who was
want to
obsessed
kill
with
me
grades.
and steal my treasure.
He wanted to get into the top
Liu
class
Feng
simply
was
to make
no
a name
novice.
for himself.
His
And
control
if he
over
couldn't get
wind
it,
elements had
so
honed
be
his
it.
perception.
After leaving
Even
the
from
crowd,
this distance,
Liu Feng
he
hadn't
could
gone
still
far
sense
when
the
he
ill
noticed
intentions
a
of these
beautiful
two.
blue figure
However,
appearing not far
their
ahead,
strength was not
waving at
particularly
him.
high.
Yi
The slightly
Xianxian,
stronger
a
triangular-eyed
strange look
giant
flashed
was
in
only
Liu
a
Feng's
third-tier
eyes.
ranger.
He had
For a
recently
magic
heard about
swordsman
Yi
who wields
Xuanchuan's
elemental
personality,
power,
which could be
killing someone of a
described
higher
as
level
very
is not
aloof.
difficult.
She
So
never
Liu
took the
Feng was
initiative to
only
greet any
slightly
boy.
wary, and
Why did
did
she
not
change her
panic too
personality
much.
today?
After
Is there
resting for a
something you
night,
need? Yi Xian
Liu
set
Feng
off the
asked
next
as
day
he
as approached
planned.
the other person.
Outside
Yi
Blackrock
Xianxian
Town
merely
lies
glanced
an
at
endless
him
wilderness,
and said indifferently,
with no sign
"Have you seen
of
the
human
rankings?
habitation for hundreds of
saw it.
miles.
Why
Therefore,
go to the yellow class
travelers
program?
must carry
Upon
ample
hearing
food
this,
and fresh water
Liu
in order to
Feng
have
couldn't help
any
but
hope of
secretly
crossing
grumble
this
to
vast
himself.
wilderness.
Whether or
Not
not
far
he
from
could get into
Blackrock
the yellow
Town,
class was
Liu
not
Feng
something
slowed
he could
his horse
decide.
slightly.
He
and
really wanted to
gazed
get
into
into
the
the heaven
distance.
class,
It
but
should
the
be
school
time for
just
them
wouldn't
to
give him the
arrive.
chance.
Not
However,
long after he finished
Liu
speaking,
Feng
more
naturally
than a
wouldn't
dozen
reveal
black
what he was
appeared
thinking,
in the place
but
Liu
instead
Feng was
said
looking
expressionlessly,
at, and they grew
"I
larger
just like
at a
it."
speed visible
After a
to the
moment's
naked eye.
hesitation,
The person in
Yi
the lead
Xianxian
was
turned
the big
and
man
left,
with triangular
leaving
eyes
only
from
one
yesterday.
sentence behind
Haha,
her.
kid,
"I will also
you're
be
smart to
attending
know
the
you
yellow
can't
class
outnumber
tomorrow.
us.
Put down your
Liu
weapons
Feng
and
was
hand
startled.
over all your
Why?
valuables, and
I
we'll
just
spare
like
your
it."
life."
Watching
With
her
a
retreating
few long
figure,
neighs from horses,
Liu Feng's lips
the burly
curled
man
into a
with
smile.
triangular eyes
This
was less
woman
than
really
100
has a
meters away
personality.
from Liu Feng,
Whether he goes
and
to class
roared.
tomorrow depends
When the
on
dozen
his
or
mood.
so bandits
He's getting
arrived,
a bit tired of
Liu
being in
Feng
this
said
university
unhurriedly,
and wants to go
"Run."
out for a walk.
Why should
The
I
next
run?
day,
Why
the
should I
classroom for the
refuse
yellow
wealth
class
that's been
was
delivered
located
to
in
my
the most
door?
remote part of the academy, because
the
there were
burly
hardly
man
any
with
people in it
triangular
to begin
eyes
with.
was taken aback
The
at
yellow
first,
class
but
consisted
after a
mostly
long
of
while he
seasoned
reacted,
students from
he
aristocratic
burst into
families
laughter,
who were
his
notorious
face
for
full of
skipping
mockery.
classes.
"I
It
see
was
you don't know the
considered
meaning
good
of death.
if there were at
Get
least
him.
10 students in
Skin
class.
this kid alive."
However, the classroom was
command,
packed today
more
with
than a
almost
dozen
no one
bandits
absent.
swarmed towards
The
the
reason
boy.
for this was, of
Foolish.
course, the arrival
Liu
of someone
Feng
they
thought
had
to
been
himself
longing
with
to
a
see
cold
all
laugh.
day.
But
Yi
just as he was
Xianxian,
about to draw his
these
sword,
people never
he
dreamed that their
suddenly heard a
goddess would actually
series
come to
of
class here
rapid
today.
hoofbeats
So
from
after
behind
hearing
him.
the news,
Who?
almost everyone
The
came to class on
triangular-eyed
time,
man's expression
and not a
changed.
single person was late.
Following the sound,
However,
Liu Feng
they
saw
only
a
dared
young
to
man
peek
from
from
the
the
sidelines,
dressed in a
not to
tight-fitting
swarm
outfit,
around like flies.
riding a black horse.
After all,
The young man
Yi
had
Xianxian
extremely
was a
delicate
fifth-level
features,
swordsman
with red lips
and unless
white
they were
teeth.
tired of living,
If it weren't for
no
his
one would
somewhat
dare to
hoarse
provoke
voice,
her.
Liu
However,
Feng would have
Yi
mistaken him for a
Xianxian
woman.
felt somewhat
"You must
disappointed
be Jing too,
because
the ghost
Liu
hand from
Feng
Blackrock
still
Town
hadn't appeared in the classroom.
The blue-clad youth asked
The teacher is
arrogantly.
here.
So,
A series
what
of
if it is?
unhurried footsteps
The burly
came
man
from
with
outside the
triangular
door,
eyes
and the
licked his
classroom
scarlet tongue.
quickly fell
My
silent.
cousin disappeared
However,
in
when the
Huangsher
students
Town a
saw
month
who
ago.
it was,
I
they
heard that you were
couldn't
the
help
one
but
who
gasp in
poisoned him.
surprise.
Is that right?
It's
Upon
Mr.
hearing
Su
this,
Zhongshu.
Zheng Tu
Am I
couldn't
seeing
help but
things?
sneer. Mr. Su is
Dozens of people
actually
die
here
by
to
my
give us a
hand
lecture
every day.
Normally,
How would I know
the
if your
lecturers
cousin is
who
among
come
them?
to teach in the
Then
Huang
prepare to
class
die.
are the lowest
You can
ranking
choose
lecturers
between taking
in the
your own
academy.
life or
These
having me
students
kill you
rarely
myself.
even see the other
Upon
professors,
hearing this,
let alone
Zheng
this
Tu
Mr.
burst
Su.
into laughter.
For a moment,
A mere
they
child
felt
dares to speak
completely
so
bewildered.
arrogantly.
It's
You
actually
underestimate
Mr. Su.
me.
Zheng
Yi
Tu.
Xianxian was
That's
also
right.
somewhat surprised.
I killed your cousin.
Hello, students.
You must be from the Tang
Mr.
family
Su
of
smiled
Yishi
as he
County.
looked around the classroom.
Unfortunately,
but his
you will
smile
perish
quickly
here
faded
today.
as he asked. Zheng Tu was a
where's
ruthless
Liu
killer
Feng?
who was often
He
hunted
didn't
down
come to
by
class?
various families.
After the words
but
were spoken,
he still survived.
survive.
The classroom
He worked
fell
in this
silent.
line of work for more than
No
a
one
decade.
spoke.
And the
After
signs
a long
of passing
while, a girl
families
stammered,
were undoubtedly
"Sir,
their
Liu
biggest
Feng."
targets.
He seems to
They
have
were
asked for
often
leave.
killed and robbed.
This is the
so
leave
Zheng
slip.
Tu became a
He
wanted
asked me to
man
give it to you.
by many small
This girl was the
families.
one who
The
recited
young
her
man in
lessons
blue
outside
leaped off
Liu
his Feng's
Feng's
house all
and
day
drew
long.
his sword from
A
its
leave
sheath.
slip.
Then I'll have to
Mr.
take your
Su was
dog's
taken
life
aback.
myself. What was
Remember,
a leave slip?
my name is Tang
Nevertheless, he
Seeing
asked the
this,
girl to bring it
Zheng
up.
Tu's eyes
It was
darted
clearly
around
a piece
quickly.
of paper with
Then
the
he
following
stared
written on
intently
it.
behind
"Hello,
Tang
sir.
His
I plan to
expression
take a
suddenly
month's leave
changing
to
as
go
he
to
asked,
the Black Cloud
"Boy,
Wilderness.
what are you doing?"
I will definitely return on
Xian's
time
expression
after
changed.
And
Please
he
do not
hurriedly
tell my
turned
father.
around to look.
Thank you
Oh,
for
no.
your cooperation.
Liu Feng's
Meanwhile,
eyes narrowed.
in Liu Feng's dormitory,
"Foolish boy,
Bai
you're still
Guobing
too
was
green to
holding
fight
an
me."
identical note.
Zheng Tu
After
laughed
reading
triumphantly,
it, his expression changed,
raising his
and he
large,
muttered,
bony right
"Young
hand,
master actually
which
went to
shimmered with
Black
black
Cloud
light,
Wilderness
and
alone.
slashed at Tang
That's
Xian,
a dangerous
who had turned his
place.
head.
Despicable scoundrel." Tang Xian immediately realized what was happening and was furious, but he had already missed the initiative and could only meet the attack with his left palm.
Bang.
After the palm strike, a huge shockwave swept out in all directions, knocking back all the dozen or so bandits around them. Tang Xian, caught off guard, was blasted away and crashed heavily into the ground behind him, creating a large, human-shaped crater. Haha, die. Zheng Tu rushed over swiftly, giving his opponent no chance to breathe, determined to kill him in one fell swoop. Tiger Fist. The black fist force faintly carried the roar of a tiger, and with its fierce and unparalleled power, it slammed into Tang Xian, causing his true energy and blood to stagnate, leaving him with a blank expression. At the critical moment, Tang Xian channeled his true energy into the long sword in his hand and used it to block in front of his chest.
Bang.
Spitting out a mouthful of blood, Tang Xian was sent flying backward. Just
Chapter
then,
13,
a woman's
concealing
voice
chi
suddenly
technique.
came from the side.
Zheng Tu was not
It's
about
not
to give
surprising
up
that
such a
Yi
favorable
Xian is
situation.
first, but
As
what's
soon as
strange
his feet
is that
touched
the
the ground,
talented Liu Feng
he
is
chased
last
after him,
in the yellow class,
laughing wildly.
with his talent.
You don't like the
It
taste
shouldn't
of my
be like
tiger
this,
fist,
do you?
A female
I regret
student
to
said
inform
her
you that
companion.
once I get close,
Last place,
even if you are the king
Liu
of heaven,
Feng suddenly
you
looked
will be
up,
beaten down
his
by
gaze
me.
locking onto the
Prepare
last
to die.
name on the honor roll, where
Don't
two
be too
incredibly
happy.
familiar words
Upon
were
hearing
clearly
this,
written.
a
Liu
ruthless
Feng.
glint flashed
I'm
across
actually last
Tang
place?
Xian's face.
He was a top
As he
student for
retreated
only 2 days.
He
and
reached
then
into
he
his
became
robes
last
and
place.
pulled out a pill.
Is that reasonable?
The pill was the
Of
size
course,
of a longan,
Liu Feng wasn't
with
the
a
kind of
crystal
person
clear
who was
surface
obsessed with
and
grades.
a faint,
He wanted to get
shifting
into the top
crimson light
class simply
inside.
to make a name for
Without
himself.
hesitation,
And if he couldn't get in,
Tang Xian
so be it.
swallowed the pill
After leaving the
and
crowd,
let out a low shout.
Liu Feng hadn't
His
gone
blue
far when he
robes
noticed
fluttered
a
without
beautiful
wind,
blue figure
indicating
appearing
that he
not
was
far
circulating
ahead,
his true
waving at
energy
him.
at
Yi
full power.
Xianxian.
The next moment,
A strange look
Tang
flashed
Xian's
in Liu
aura
Feng's
surged,
eyes,
and
he
had
quickly
recently
recovered
heard
to
about
his
Yi
peak condition,
Xuanchuan's personality,
even surpassing
which
his
could be
original
described
cultivation
as
level.
very aloof.
In a short
She
period
never
of time,
took the initiative to
he
greet
entered
any
the
boy.
realm of a
Why did
fourth-order
she change her
swordsman.
personality
Liu
today?
Feng's eyes
Is there
lit up.
something you need?
It's a pill that
Liu
temporarily
Feng
boosts
asked as he approached
cultivation.
the other person.
Bang bang.
Yi Xianxian
The ground
merely
was
glanced
crushed
at him
under his
and
feet.
said indifferently,
Tang Xian
"Have you
stopped
seen
his
the
retreat,
rankings?
his body
I saw
enveloped
it.
in a faint
Why
red
go
light,
to the yellow class
and
program?"
an astonishing
Upon
aura
hearing
rose from the
this,
ground as
Liu
he suddenly
Feng couldn't
swung
help
his
but
sword.
secretly
It's
grumble to
over.
himself.
Liu Feng
Whether
thought
or
to
not
himself,
he could get into the
Zheng
yellow
Tu
class
is
was
at
not
most a
something he could
third-tier
decide.
wandering knight.
He really
While
wanted to get
Tang
into the
Xian
heaven
has
class,
temporarily
but the
entered the
school
fourth
just
tier.
wouldn't give him the chance.
In this battle,
However,
it is clear that
Liu
Zheng Tu
Feng
will
naturally
lose.
wouldn't reveal
However,
what he was thinking,
facing Tang
but
Xian's
instead
sharp
said
sword,
expressionlessly,
Zheng Tu
"I
did
just
not
like
dodge.
it."
After
He
a
spread his
moment's
feet
hesitation,
apart.
one in
Yi
front of the other,
Xianxian
and
turned
then threw
and
a
left,
punch, leaving
directly
only one
clashing with
sentence
Tang
behind
Xian's
her.
attack.
I will also
Boom.
be attending the
A
yellow
figure
class
flew
tomorrow.
backward, spitting out
Liu
blood.
Feng was startled.
It was Tang
Why?
Xian.
What?
I just like it.
Liu Feng's
Watching
face
her
showed
retreating
surprise.
figure.
At this
Liu
moment,
Feng's lips
Zheng
curled into a
Tu's
smile.
aura actually increased.
This woman really
and
has
his
a
cultivation
personality.
level had
Whether he
clearly
goes to
reached
class
the fourth
tomorrow
level.
depends on his mood.
Haha, you fool.
He's getting a bit
I
tired
broke
of being
through
in
to
this
the fourth
university
level a month
and
ago.
wants to go
I
out
was
for a
just
walk.
afraid of being
The next
targeted
day,
by experts
the
from
classroom
powerful
for the yellow
families.
class was
So
located
I kept
in the
my
most
strength
remote
hidden
part of the academy.
You didn't expect
because
that,
there were
did you?
hardly any people
Blame
in
it
to
on your
begin with.
naivety for
The
delivering
yellow
yourself
class
to my
consisted
doorstep.
mostly of seasoned
A fierce
students
glint
from
flashed
aristocratic
in
families
Zheng
who were
Tu's eyes.
notorious for
After
skipping
I kill you
classes.
all,
I
it
was
was considered
considered
good
good
if there were at least 10
go somewhere
students in
else.
class.
No matter
However,
how
the
powerful
classroom
the
was
Tang
packed
family
today
is,
with almost
what
no
can
one
they do
absent.
to me?
The reason
Tang
for this
Xian's
was, of
eyes
course,
nearly
the
popped out
arrival
of
of someone they had
sockets.
been longing to
At this
see all
moment,
day.
his heart
Yi
was
Xianxian.
filled with anger.
These
but
people never
also
dreamed
with
that their
deep
goddess
regret.
would actually come
Why
to class
did he have
here
to
today?
go against the
So
family
after hearing
elders
the news,
and come alone
almost
to
everyone
avenge his
came to
cousin?
class on time.
He never
and not a
expected
single
that he would
person
not
was late.
only fail to
However,
avenge his cousin,
they only
but
dared
also
to
be
peek from
killed
the
by the
sidelines.
other party.
Not to
But
swarm
just as
around
he was
like
in despair,
flies.
Liu
After
Feng
all,
suddenly rose up
Yi
from the ground in
Xianxian
his
was a
sight.
fifth-level
The next
swordsman,
moment,
and
a warm
unless they were
hand
tired
embraced
of living,
him,
moving
no
up
one
his
would dare
waist
to provoke
and
her.
finally pressing
However,
directly against
Yi
Tang
Xianxian
Xian's
felt
chest.
somewhat disappointed.
However,
because
in that instant,
Liu Feng
still
Feng's
hadn't
body
appeared in the
suddenly
classroom.
stiffened.
The
because
teacher
he
is
was
here.
shocked to feel that
A
his hand was
series of
holding a
unhurried
soft,
footsteps came
elastic
from outside
object
the
with an
door,
excellent
and the
feel.
classroom
This
quickly
Tang
fell
Xian
silent.
is actually a woman.
However, when the students
Liu
saw who
Feng
it
couldn't
was,
help but
they
feel
couldn't
embarrassed.
help but gasp in surprise.
Miss, I meant no offense.
It's Mr.
Then
Su
why aren't you
Jiangxu.
letting letting go. Am I seeing things? Tang Xian was
Mr.
furious.
Su is
He never
actually
expected
here
to
to give
be
us a
violated
lecture?
by a stranger before
Normally,
his death. The lecturers
he
who
would
come
rather
to
have been
teach
killed
in
by
the
Zheng
Huang
Tu
class are
with
the
a punch
lowest-ranking
earlier.
lecturers in the academy.
I'm sorry.
These students rarely
Liu
even
Feng
see the other
chuckled dryly,
professors,
and
let alone
hurriedly
this
withdrew
Mr.
his
Su.
petrified
For
right
a
hand.
moment,
They
Tang
felt
Xian wanted to
completely
slap Lu
bewildered.
Feng right
It's
away,
actually
but after
Mr.
thinking
Su.
about it,
He
Yi
couldn't bring
Xian
himself
was
to do
also
it.
somewhat surprised.
Anyway, they were all
Hello,
going to die
students.
soon,
And
Mr.
since they were all pitiful,
he looked
people,
around the classroom.
why make things
but
difficult
his
for
smile
each other?
quickly faded as
Seeing
he
their
asked,
awkwardness, Zheng
where's
Tu
Liu
couldn't help
Feng?
but snort. He didn't come to class?
Two men
After
acting
the words
all
were
coy
spoken,
like that.
the
It's
classroom
disgusting.
fell silent.
Little did he know
no
that
one
Tang
spoke.
Xian was a woman.
After a long while,
He
a girl
assumed that the
stammered,
two of them
"Sir,
had some
Liu
kind
Feng.
of shady hobby.
He seems to have
Even
asked
though
for
he had
leave.
killed countless
This
people.
is the leave slip.
He immediately
He
felt
asked me
a
to give it
chill
to you.
run down his
This
spine.
girl was the one
Upon
who recited
hearing
her
this,
lessons
Liu
outside
Feng's
Liu Feng's
forehead
house
immediately
all day
creased
long.
with black
A
lines.
leave slip. It seemed
Mr.
the other
Su was
person
taken
had
aback.
most likely
What was a
misunderstood.
leave slip?
After all,
Nevertheless,
he was a guy
he
with a
asked the
head
girl
full
to
of
bring it
filthy
up.
thoughts. It was
Slowly
clearly
rising
rising
from
from
the
paper with
ground,
the following
Liu
written
Feng
on it.
drew his steel
Hello,
sword
sir.
and stepped
I plan
forward,
to take a month's
saying,
leave to go
"To
the
be
Black
honest,
Cloud
I'm
Wilderness.
quite impressed with you.
I will definitely
You've hidden
return on
yourself
time
so well.
after a month.
If it were me
Please
fighting
do not
you for
tell
the
my
first
father.
time,
Thank
I'd
you for your
probably
cooperation.
suffer a little loss."
Meanwhile,
But
in
now,
Liu Feng's dormitory,
you are destined to
Bai
lose.
Guobing was holding an
Haha,
identical
kid,
note.
if I'm not mistaken,
After reading it,
you've
his
only
expression
just entered
changed
the
and he
first
muttered,
level.
"Young
You dare to
master
spout such
actually went to
nonsense
Black
with such a
Cloud
low
Wilderness
level
alone.
of cultivation.
That's a
You're
dangerous
really
place."
courting death."
Zheng Tu sneered incessantly. Liu Feng remained calm, as if he hadn't heard the other party's words. He slowly drew his steel sword and said, "You are clearly at the 4th level of cultivation, yet you can disguise yourself as being at the 3rd level. I am very interested in your Dao technique." Upon hearing this, Zheng Tu frowned. An ordinary 1st-level swordsman would probably have been terrified by him, but the other party was so calm, as if he was absolutely confident that he could kill him. "I refuse to believe you can turn the world upside down." Tiger explosion shakes the heavens. With a deafening tiger's roar, a powerful torrent of true energy swept towards Liu Feng, starting from Zheng Tu, and an incomparably dark crack instantly appeared on the ground. A tidal wave of energy surged out from the crack, and before Liu Feng could react, he was engulfed by the energy, creating a deafening roar. A violent energy surge swept outwards, stirring up a cloud of flying sand and rocks. Looking at the explosion site, it had become a large crater, 1/2 meter wide and 3 feet deep, with no remains of any kind. Just then,
kid,
a
you've got
woman's
no
voice
skills, but
suddenly
you still
came
dare
from
to
the
brag.
side.
This
It's
is
not
what
surprising
happens
that
to
Yi Xianxian
Seeing that
is
the pit was
first,
empty,
but what's strange
Zheng
is
Tu
that the
laughed
talented Liu
wildly.
Feng is
A mere
last in the yellow
first-level
class.
swordsman would
With
surely
his
die
talent,
under this attack.
It shouldn't be like
However,
this would
female
also destroy
student
the
said to her
spoils of war.
companion.
All the
Last
money
place,
and gold notes would
Liu
probably
Feng
be
suddenly
turned
looked
to
up,
ashes.
his gaze
He
locking
couldn't help
onto the
but
last
sigh
name on the
inwardly.
honor roll,
Luckily,
where 2
there's
incredibly
still one
familiar
left.
words were
Zheng
clearly
Tu
written.
turned his gaze to
Liu
Tang
Feng.
Xian.
I'm
sneered
actually
a few
last place,
times, and
he was a
stepped
top
forward
student
to
for
finish
only
him
2
off.
days, and then
It's
he
over.
became last place.
Tang Xian
Is
closed
that
his
reasonable?
eyes.
Just
Of
then,
course, suddenly,
Liu Feng wasn't
in
the kind of
Zheng
person
Tu's
who was
pupils,
obsessed with
a
grades.
sword light
He wanted to get into
magnified
the top class
continuously,
simply
and
to
the
make a
next
name for
moment,
himself.
a
And
white
if he
figure
couldn't get
appeared
in,
before
so
him,
be it.
like a ghost.
After leaving the crowd,
The
Liu
sword's
Feng
edge
hadn't
was
gone
sharp,
far when he noticed
slicing
a
across
beautiful
Zheng Tu's
blue
neck,
figure appearing
and a
not
spurt
far
of
ahead,
blood shot
waving
out.
at him.
You're
Yi
not
Xianxian.
dead. Zheng
A
Tu's
strange
eyes
look
were
flashed
filled with
in Liu
disbelief
Feng's eyes.
as blood gushed
He
from
had
his
recently
neck.
heard about
He
Yi
finally
Xuanchuan's
collapsed with a
personality,
look of
which could be
resentment on his
described
face.
as very
The
aloof.
boss is dead.
She never took
Run.
the initiative to
With
greet any
Zheng Tu
boy.
dead,
Why did
the
she
dozen
change her
or so
personality
bandits
today?
were terrified
Is there
and
something you
scattered
need?
like a pile of loose
Liu
sand,
Feng asked
fleeing
as
in
he
all
approached the
directions.
other person. However,
Yi
Liu
Xianxian
Feng
would
would not
not
let
let
these
these
lackeys
go,
and said indifferently,
He raised his
"Have you
sword
seen the
and killed
rankings?
all the remaining
I
dozen
saw it.
or so men.
Why go to the
Tang
yellow class
Xian
program?"
was completely
Upon
stunned by
hearing
this
this,
scene.
Zheng
Zheng Tu
Tu,
couldn't
who
help
was so
but
arrogant
secretly
just now,
grumble
was
to
killed
himself.
so easily.
Whether or not he
With
could
just
get into
one
the yellow
sword,
class was
Zheng
not
Tu
something
was
he could
killed
decide.
as if he had no
He
power
really wanted to
to
get into the
resist.
heaven class.
Is this
but the
person
school
really
just wouldn't
just a
give him the
first-level
chance.
swordsman?
However,
In reality,
Liu
the
Feng
two sides were
naturally
not
wouldn't
as
reveal
strong
what he
as
was
they
thinking,
seemed.
but
In a
instead
truly
said
fair
expressionlessly,
fight, it would not be
"I just
easy
like
for
it."
Liu Feng to
After
kill
a
Zheng
moment's
Tu,
hesitation,
since the difference
Yi
in their
Xianxian
cultivation
turned
levels
and
was
left,
significant,
leaving
and
only
Zheng
one
Tu
sentence
had a wealth
behind
of
her.
combat experience.
"I will also be attending
However,
the yellow class tomorrow."
Zheng Tu did not take Liu
Liu
Feng
Feng was
seriously
startled
from the beginning.
Why?
Thinking that he could
I
end
just
the
like
battle
it.
in one move.
Watching her retreating
Otherwise,
figure,
even
Liu
if Liu
Feng's
Feng's
lips
sword
curled
hit,
into a
it would be
smile.
blocked by the
This
opponent's
woman
protective
really has a
true chi,
personality,
and
whether he goes
only
to class
suffer
tomorrow
minor
depends
injuries
on
at
the
most.
mood.
He's
Sheathing
getting a
his
bit
sword,
tired of being
Liu
in this
Feng
university
began searching
and
Zheng
wants to
Tu's
go out for a
body.
walk.
Logically
The next
speaking,
day, this
the
guy must have
classroom for the
accumulated
yellow
a
class was
lot of
located
wealth
in the
after
most
killing
remote part part of
so
the
many
academy
powerful
because there
figures.
were hardly
It
any
shouldn't
people
be
in
a
it to
small
begin
amount.
with.
The
However,
yellow class
after
consisted
searching
mostly of
Jing's
seasoned
entire
students
body
from
Liu
aristocratic
Feng
families
found
who were
nothing of
notorious
value, for skipping
only
classes.
a few hundred
It
taels
was
of
considered
silver
good
and a
if there
few
were at
ordinary
least 10
healing
students in
pills.
class.
No way.
However,
Am
the
I
classroom
really
was
that
packed
unlucky?
today with
Liu
almost no
Feng's
one
face was
absent.
grim.
The
but
reason for
after
this
thinking
was,
about
of course,
he felt
the
something
arrival
was
of
wrong.
someone they had been longing
Zhang
to
had
see all
slaughtered
day.
so many
passersby,
including
These
a
people
large
never
number of
dreamed that their
cultivators.
goddess would actually
Could it
come to
be
class
that
here
all
today?
that wealth
So
had been
after
hidden
hearing
away?
the news,
These
almost
desperate
everyone
criminals
came to class
might
on
leave
time,
Shenzhou
and
at
not a
any
single
time,
person was late.
and they'll definitely
However,
take most of their wealth
they
with
only
them.
dared to peek
Check
from the
carefully
sidelines
to see if they have
not
any
to swarm
storage
around
pouches
like
on them.
flies.
Tang
After
Xian
all,
suddenly reminded them
Yi
from behind.
Xian was a
Oh,
fifth-level
a
swordsman,
storage pouch.
and unless they
Liu
were
Feng
tired of
began
living,
to search Jing
no one would
inch
dare
by
to
inch,
provoke her.
and soon
However,
discovered some clues.
Yi Xian
Adjunct
felt
to
somewhat
his waist
disappointed
was a
because
brocade pouch that
Liu
resembled
Feng
a pocket.
still hadn't appeared
When
in the classroom.
Liu Feng touched it,
The teacher is
a
here.
faint fluctuation
A series
of true
of
energy
unhurried
emanated
footsteps
from it.
came from outside the
That's it.
door. And
Although
the classroom
Liu Feng had
quickly
never
fell
seen a
silent.
storage pouch before,
However, when the
he had
students
heard
saw
of it.
who it was,
Generally,
they couldn't help
only
but gasp in
experienced
surprise.
swordsmen would possess such a thing.
It's Mr.
He
Su
never
Zhongshu.
expected that Jing
Am I
Tu,
seeing things?
with his mere
Mr.
fourth-level
Su
swordsman
is
cultivation,
actually here to give
would
us
be
a
able to
lecture?
possess such a treasure.
Normally,
Of
the
course,
lecturers who
compared
come
to
to his
teach
void
in the
ring,
Huang
this
class
thing was
are
completely
the lowest ranking
insignificant
lecturers in the
and
academy.
could not be compared
These
at
students
all.
rarely
With
even
his
see the
spiritual
other
energy
professors,
entering the
let
storage
alone
pouch,
this Mr. Su.
Liu Feng
For a
began
moment,
searching for the
they felt
cultivation
completely
technique
bewildered.
that could conceal
It's
one's
actually
aura.
Mr. Su.
However, Yi
The moment Liu
Xian was
Feng's
also somewhat
consciousness
surprised.
entered it.
Hello,
he felt
students.
a strong sense of
Mr. Su
unexpected
smiled
joy.
as he looked around the
His
classroom.
face was about
but
10
his
feet
smile
in
quickly
size
faded
and
as he
filled
asked,
with gold and silver. Its
where's
golden
Liu
light,
Feng?
making it
He
completely
didn't
bright.
come to class?
All this gold
After the words
and
were
silver
spoken,
probably
the
amounts
classroom
to tens
fell
of thousands
silent.
of taels.
No one
This
spoke.
pile of gold and
After a
silver
long while,
alone
a
is
girl
huge
stammered,
fortune.
"Sir, Liu Feng,
I wonder how many people
he
this
seems to have
guy
asked
killed
to
to
leave.
amass such a
This
massive
is
amount
the
of
leave
gold
slip.
and silver.
He asked me to
Aside
give it
from
to you."
gold and
This
silver,
girl was
in
the
another
one
part
who
of the
recited
space,
her lessons
there were
outside Liu
several
Feng's
slightly
house
worn
all
out
day
secret
long.
manuals.
A leave slip.
On the cover were
Mr.
several
Su was
large,
taken aback.
flamboyant
What
characters.
was a leave slip?
Tiger War
Nevertheless,
He
upon
asked
opening
the girl
it,
to bring it
a
up.
few lines of
It was
small
clearly
print
a piece of
immediately
paper
came
with
into
the
view.
following written on it.
Tiger War Fist.
Hello, sir.
A mid-level
I plan to
human
take a
rank
month's
fist
technique.
leave to go to the
Consists
Black
of
Cloud
3
Wilderness.
forms.
Only
I will
those
definitely
with broad
return on
meridians
time
and
after
strong
a month.
physiques can practice
Please
it.
do not tell my
Practitioners
father.
need to
Thank
concentrate
you for your
their
cooperation.
true chi into their fists.
Meanwhile, if
in
Liu
Liu Feng's
mastered,
dormitory,
it can injure
Bai
enemies
Guobing
from
was
1,000
holding an
meters
identical
away.
note,
But it consumes
after reading
a
it, his
huge
expression
amount of
changed,
true
and
chi.
he muttered,
Although
"Young
Liu
master
Feng was somewhat
actually went to
tempted,
Black
this
Cloud
boxing
Wilderness
style
alone.
was clearly not
That's
suitable
a
for him.
dangerous place."
He only glanced at it before throwing it back, thinking that it could probably be sold for a lot of money later. Intermediate-level human-grade fist techniques are not common. They are generally very popular and often in short supply. Liu Feng has the backing of a marquise mansion, so naturally, he has no shortage of human-grade techniques. However, not everyone has a family background like Liu Feng's. Next to the Tiger Roar Fist Manual, there was another secret manual. Concealing Chi Technique, a high-level human-grade martial skill, can hide one level of cultivation. It is applicable to those below the Sword Master Realm, but ineffective against those above the Sword Master Realm. After reading this, Liu Feng couldn't help but smile. The level of this concealing chi technique had actually reached the high level of the human rank. Moreover, judging from its effect, only experts above the sword master level could see through it. In other words, since high-level swordsmen couldn't see through this concealing chi technique, they could hide their aura and catch their enemies off guard. Good stuff, I'll take it. Liu Feng had secretly made up his mind that he must master the concealing chi technique. Once he did, his ability to survive in the wild would likely be greatly improved. Chapter 14 Warner. He leaped onto his white-maned horse and prepared to gallop away. Wait, are you just going to leave me here? Just then, a slightly hurried voice came from behind. Liu Feng tightened the reins, turned the horse's head towards Tang Xian's location and frowned. Then I'll take you to the restaurant in Blackstone Town. You can rest there for a few days, and then you can walk on your own. It's not far from Blackrock Town, so it shouldn't take too much time. Unexpectedly, Tang Xian showed no appreciation whatsoever, instead pursing his lips and saying, I don't want to go back to Huangshe Town. Why don't I go to Xingyao, Ancient City with you? How did you know I was going to Xingyao, Ancient City? Liu Feng asked, somewhat puzzled. I'm guessing. Most people who come here are heading to Starry Ancient City. Aren't you one of them? I see you're all alone, so why don't you take me with you? It's good to have more people to help each other, right? No. Liu Feng firmly rejected the other party's request.
This journey was already extremely dangerous, and bringing along a burden would only make it more perilous. Upon hearing this, Tang Xian immediately put on a mournful face, as if he was about to cry, and said, "I'm your savior, and you won't even help me with this little thing?" Savior? Liu Feng looked astonished. It seemed the other party had it backwards. Who was whose savior? It seemed that he was the one who killed Jing Tu and saved him. If I hadn't fought Jing Tu so fiercely at the beginning, depleting more than half of his true energy, would you have been able to kill him so quickly? You're supposed to be from a prominent family, yet you don't even know the basics of gratitude. Use your brain and think about this. Stop. Hearing Tang Xian's long and rambling speech, Liu Feng's head swelled up 1,000,000 times. She could make black seem white. He could only wave his hand to stop her and show his compromise. Liu Feng could only ask helplessly, "Can you still ride a horse?" "No. Can't you see I'm already seriously injured?" Tang Xian pouted in dissatisfaction. He cursed his bad luck under his breath, but Liu Feng decided to put up with it for the time being. He kicked his horse and galloped to Tang Xian's side, then pulled the other man onto the horse and rode away. Night fell quickly. The night in the wilderness was colder than I had imagined. Ice crystals even formed on the surface of the sand, as hard as iron. This godforsaken place. Tang Xian couldn't help but shiver and curse under his breath. Inside the thick tent, Liu Feng was meditating. His current cultivation level is close to that of a second-tier magic swordsman, but ultimately his foundation is insufficient, preventing him from breaking through the bottleneck in one go. Fortunately, he possessed numerous methods that allowed his true strength to far exceed his cultivation level. After all, strength was the most important factor, while cultivation level was secondary. "Hey, I still don't know your name?" Tang Xian suddenly asked. She was quite curious about Liu Feng's identity. He seemed to be a member of a powerful family, but he was ruthless when it came to killing people, much like a seasoned veteran of the martial arts world. In fact, Liu Feng had never killed anyone before killing Jing Tu, but he felt no discomfort at all because his mental strength was 10 times that of an ordinary person. The mental pressure caused by killing someone was negligible to him. Upon hearing this, Liu Feng didn't even raise his eyes and replied, "Liu Feng." "Liu Feng, right? I've got it." Tang Xian nodded thoughtfully. "What's your name?" "It shouldn't be Tang Xian, right?" Liu Feng opened his eyes and looked at the figure in front of him with some curiosity. Since the other party is not a man, it means that Tang Xian's identity is definitely an imposter. Even his identity as a member of the Tang family of Yushi County is very likely fake. Moreover, someone that even a good-for-nothing like him has never heard of should not be a member of any family in Xianzhou. I am indeed not a member of the Tang family, but the Tang family and I have some connection. As for the details, you don't need to know. I have a nickname, Wanner.
You can call me that.
It seems that the other party is unwilling to mention his name. Liu Feng didn't ask any more questions, but smiled faintly. Wanner? There's an old saying. So tender is Wanner, so gentle is Qingyang. It's a nice name, but it doesn't seem quite right for you. Upon hearing this, Wanner glared at him fiercely. What do you mean? It's nothing. After saying that, Liu Feng closed his eyes again and entered a state of cultivation, leaving only the blue-clad woman staring blankly. Nothing was said that night. The next morning, Liu Feng and his companion set off. Following the directions on the treasure map, Liu Feng finally found the location of Starry Ancient City as evening approached. There were many adventurers there, clearly all heading towards Starry Ancient City. However, in the vast area, Liu Feng did not find any trace of buildings, not even a thatched hut, let alone any ancient city. After looking around for a while, Liu Feng asked with a puzzled expression, "That's strange. This place is clearly marked on the map, so why isn't it here? Come on, do you have any common sense? Starry Ancient City only opens when there is starlight. How could you possibly see it in broad daylight?" Wanna rolled her eyes at him from the side. "So that's how it is." Liu Feng nodded. No wonder the people around him were waiting so calmly. It turned out that the Starry Ancient City would only appear at night, and only under the condition of starlight. Wanner glanced around and continued, but it's strange. The rumors about starry ancient city only started circulating a year ago. Before that, no one had ever heard of them. A year ago? Liu Feng was also taken aback. He really didn't know that. He had only heard about Xingyao ancient city through hearsay. His knowledge of the ancient city was limited to that treasure map. He knew nothing else. Yes, this ancient city feels very eerie. You'll see soon enough. It's not as wealthy as outsiders say. On the contrary, it's full of dangers. There are many traps and mechanisms inside, and you could lose your life if you're not careful. The corpses of adventurers here could probably pile up into a mountain. As she said this, Wanner's expression became much more serious. Liu Feng looked surprised and immediately began to look at the woman in front of him with new respect. She knew much more about Xingyao ancient city than he did. Perhaps bringing her along would bring unexpected benefits. Time passed quickly, and night soon fell. Fortunately, the changes in the celestial phenomena did not disappoint Liu Feng. Stars gradually appeared in the sky, and then streaks of starlight fell from the sky, covering the land. The ancient city will emerge in less than half an hour, Wanner suddenly said. The starlight shining on this area gradually intensified, and soon, the earth seemed to tremble slightly. Although it was very faint, many people still sensed it. Half an hour passed in the blink of an eye, and the many adventurers present held their breath and waited intently. OM. The earth trembled violently, and the ground beneath people's feet cracked open, revealing an ancient, earthen yellow city that gradually emerged from the darkness like a giant beast in the night. The ancient city is about 10 miles in circumference, and as far as the eye can see, you can't see where the end is. This is the legendary Xingyao ancient city, which reveals its extraordinary nature and its simplicity. After waiting for almost the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, the ancient city finally emerged from the ground. With a loud bang, the gate built of massive stones swung open, and a chilling wind rushed out, sending a shiver down everyone's spine. However, a gust of cold wind could not scare away those wolf-like adventurers. In just an instant, more than a dozen figures rushed into the ancient city and disappeared. A glint of light flashed in Liu Feng's eyes, and he said solemnly, "Let's go in too." Wanna nodded and followed the many adventurers as the two of them slipped through the gate. Chapter 15 Iron Bone Armor. Is this the interior of the ancient city? The situation inside the ancient city was not what Liu Feng had imagined. He was just a step too late. When he entered, he found that Wanner was nowhere to be seen. Moreover, apart from Wanner, he could not see anyone else. What lay in front of him was a passage, which was closed on all sides and gave people a sense of oppression. Looking back, I couldn't see the gate of the ancient city at all. It seemed to have suddenly appeared in the passageway, with passageways in front and behind, leading to who knows where. Strangeness. Liu Feng frowned. From the outside, the ancient city was only about 10 miles in circumference, not very big. But judging from the network of passages, the interior of the ancient city seemed to be much larger and more unfathomable than it appeared from the outside. Unable to determine his current location, Liu Feng could only proceed one step at a time, choosing a direction and continuing in that direction. The long passage seemed endless. After walking for half an hour, there was still no movement. Liu Feng had considered breaking through the wall, but when the fine steel sword struck the wall, it only left a shallow mark. The entire wall did not even tremble. So, he gave up the idea. Since there's a passage, there must be an exit. Otherwise, wouldn't this starry ancient city become a giant prison, where people outside can only come in but can't get out? That would be too much of a ripoff. Another corner of the city. Damn it! How come this ancient city is full of passages? Which way should we go? The speaker was a red-haired youth named Luo Tian, a member of the Luo family, a middle-class family in Xianzhou. Throughout Xianzhou, besides the Yi family, which holds absolute dominance, there are many other small and medium-sized families. The strongest cultivators in these families are generally only at the sword master level. After all,
Only powerful imperial families like the Yi family have sword sect experts. This trip to Xingyao Ancient City is a rare opportunity for him. As long as he obtains a treasure, his strength will increase significantly, his status among the younger generation of the Luo family will rise accordingly, and it is not impossible for him to become the heir to the family head. Defensive treasures are the best. Their value far exceeds that of offensive treasures. Generally, defensive treasures are in short supply, especially armor. One piece of armor is probably worth 2 or 3 offensive treasures. After turning left and right, and after going around a corner, Luo Tian's vision suddenly opened up. In front of him was no longer an endless passage, but a secret room. Great! There must be treasure inside. Luo Tian's face lit up with joy. He even sensed that there was a faint glimmer of precious light emanating from the secret chamber. However, this joy was short-lived, as it was interrupted by a series of hurried footsteps.
What?
Someone's here. Luo Tian's face immediately darkened. The next moment, a white figure emerged from around the corner and walked to the door of the secret room. Huh, is there a secret room here? The person who arrived was none other than Liu Feng, who had been exploring the ancient city. After getting completely lost in the maze-like terrain, he unknowingly ended up in this place. However, the moment he stepped into the room, he sensed a dangerous aura.
Call out.
A fiery red sword light suddenly appeared in front of him, sharp and unparalleled. Fortunately, Liu Feng was prepared and leaned back sharply, dodging the sword strike. He actually dodged it. After the sword light passed, a figure appeared. It was Luo Tian, who looked at Liu Feng with a surprised expression. Even if the person standing in front of you is a third-level swordsman, he would definitely be injured by this sudden sneak attack. This kid in front of you is only at the second level of cultivation, yet he dodged it without a scratch. Liu Feng frowned. We are complete strangers. Why did you launch a sneak attack out of nowhere? Humph. A cold glint flashed in Luo Tian's eyes. I discovered this secret chamber first, so the treasures inside naturally belong to me. If you leave now, I will spare your life. Liu Feng shook his head and said, those who see it should have a share. Why should the treasure belong to you? Looks like you're going to have to suffer the consequences. Luo Tian's face darkened, and he slashed out with his sword. The fierce sword light followed the passage and slashed straight towards Liu Feng on the other side. Your arrogance will cost you your life. Liu Feng's eyes narrowed, and as the sword light magnified in his pupils, his sword was drawn. Swift Wind Sword. Liu Feng immediately unleashed the first move of the swift sword technique. He didn't intend to prolong the fight and adopted an offensive approach. In this situation, the outcome could only be that the brave would prevail in a narrow encounter, and whoever launched the fiercest attack would win the battle.
Boom.
The two collided, releasing a powerful shockwave. Before Luo Tian could react, he was thrown away by the force of the impact, spitting out blood. Unable to withstand even a single blow, Luo Tian had no other thoughts left in his mind. He unleashed his spiritual power. A cloud of blood mist rose from his body, and he fled at high speed, leaving behind a series of afterimages. They escaped pretty quickly. Liu Feng felt a little regretful. He guessed that the other party was also a disciple of some family and probably had a lot of wealth. It was a pity that he couldn't kill him. After calming himself down, Liu Feng entered the secret room. The secret chamber was completely empty except for a stone pedestal in the center, which was also empty. Approaching the stone platform, Liu Feng noticed a line of small characters on the stone block, which read, Low-grade treasure iron bone armor, forged from the hide of the iron bone beast, a 6th-order spirit-level demon beast in the wilderness. It is extremely hard and cannot be penetrated by swordsmen below the 5th order. For swordsmen above the 5th order, the defensive effect decreases as their cultivation level increases. A 6th-tier spirit beast? Liu Feng couldn't help but click his tongue in amazement. A 6th-order spirit beast is not the same as a 5th-order swordsman. Spirit beasts are often stronger than humans, so the true strength of this ironbone beast should be about the same as that of a 6th-order swordsman. If Lu Chen encountered such a creature now, he would only be able to run away. And right in front of him, there was actually a treasure armor made of the hide of a sixth-order spirit beast. Where is it? Liu Feng looked around. Logically speaking, the iron bone armor should be on this stone pillar, but why isn't it here? Could it have been taken by someone else? Could my luck be that bad? Liu Feng was not one to give up easily. He gritted his teeth and began to search inch by inch with his divine sense. He even carefully tapped behind the walls to see if there were any hidden compartments or the like. Half an hour later. Damn it, there isn't any? Disappointment was evident on Liu Feng's face. He had wasted so much time and still gained nothing. Turning his gaze back to the stone pier, Liu Feng grew increasingly angry. To avoid wasting time for others later, I'll destroy you first. Drawing his long sword, Liu Feng mustered all his strength and cleaved the stone pillar in two. The next moment, a surge of magical energy emanated from it. This is an unprecedented energy fluctuation. Ordinary weapons would never have such a fluctuation, and only treasure-level weapons can emit such a fluctuation. A look of wild joy flashed in Liu Feng's eyes. He shattered the stones with a single punch, revealing a jet-black suit of armor. This is the iron bone armor? Liu Feng took a deep breath and carefully picked up the black armor from the ground. A pure energy fluctuation emanated from his palm. This armor was undoubtedly the iron bone armor described in the small print. Haha, God rewards those who persevere. Liu Feng was in a great mood. After the blood oath, he immediately put on the iron bone armor. It was completely invisible from the outside, as if he wasn't wearing it at all. However, it would automatically appear whenever he was attacked. However, just as Liu Feng was collecting the iron bone armor, the walls of the secret chamber collapsed with a crash, revealing a staircase directly in front of him, deep and mysterious, its destination unknown. With a solemn expression, Liu Feng did not hesitate for long before stepping onto the stairs and disappearing into the darkness. The tree was ablaze, with flames shooting out in all directions. Walking over and pulling out the spearhead, Liu Feng pondered to himself. Although he is only at the first level of cultivation, he is qualitatively different from other swordsmen. He is a demon swordsman, and so far, it seems that the combat power of a first-level demon swordsman is roughly equivalent to that of a third-level ordinary swordsman. Just as Liu Feng turned around, a subtle fluctuation suddenly emanated from the dense forest behind him. Who is it? Please come out and meet me. Liu Feng stared at the dense forest behind him. Just a moment ago, a faint energy fluctuation had clearly emanated from there. Humph, kid. You have a good eye.
Whoosh.
As soon as the words were spoken, a figure darted out and landed on a charred tree trunk. What came into view was a young man, about 20 years old, with thick eyebrows and big eyes, staring at the treasure in Liu Fengshu's hand with a strong look of greed in his eyes. Who are you? Liu Feng asked warily. This person had been watching him for who knows how long. If it weren't for that slight fluctuation, he probably wouldn't have been able to find him in the end. Hand over the spear and cripple your cultivation, and I may spare your life, the thick-browed youth said arrogantly. Liu Feng frowned, but before he could speak, another figure slowly emerged from the dense forest. It was Luo Tian, whom he had encountered in the passage earlier. The man smiled coldly and said, Brother Luo Xiong, letting a tiger return to the mountain is not your style. Besides, I can guarantee that he has more than just this spear on him. Kill him and search his body slowly. Upon hearing this, Luo Xiong raised an eyebrow and grinned. That's right, it seems we can't keep you here. You will be the one who dies. Liu Feng is not someone who can be intimidated by a few words. Although his opponent may be difficult to deal with, it is absolutely impossible for him to admit defeat. Anyone can say tough words. Don't worry, I won't let you die easily. I'll tear off your limbs and stick them into the ground one by one. A cruel smile appeared on his face. Luo Xiong lightly touched the ground with his toes, and the tree trunk beneath his feet snapped with a crack. The next moment, he shot towards Liu Feng like a meteor. Chapter 16 The Cicada Awaits. After the darkness,
A light appeared in front of Liu Feng. As the light drew closer, it seemed that the exit was just ahead. After the blinding light, what came into Liu Feng's view was a clear blue sky, and the surrounding environment was a vast and boundless, dense forest. Looking at this astonishing scene, Liu Feng was shocked, but at the same time, he was also uneasy. How could there be a forest inside this ancient city? The ancient city exudes an eeriness. Unlike the blessed land of an ancient sect, it seems more like a place of great misfortune, containing an ominous aura. Liu Feng frowned, and after failing to come up with a solution, he shook his head. Just as he was pondering, a blood-red gaze suddenly locked onto him. The next moment, with a wild beast's howl, a rhinoceros-like monster charged out of the dense forest and crashed directly into Liu Feng. There are even demonic beasts? Interesting. A look of surprise flashed across Liu Feng's eyes. He then leaped up above the rhinoceros monster and thrust his sword at its head.
Puffed.
The rhinoceros monster's head was pierced, and the white brain matter inside was faintly visible. Having chosen a direction, Liu Feng continued forward, determined to break out of the forest instead of remaining stuck in the same place. Liu Feng had to be extremely careful along the way. This dense forest was fraught with danger and lurking with murderous intent. There might be high-level spirit beasts among them. If he encountered a beast of that level, he probably wouldn't even have a chance to escape and would be killed on the spot. Stepping onto a tree branch, Liu Feng pulled back his leaning body and turned to look at the scorched, flat land dozens of meters away. A broken stone tablet stands on the flat ground, its inscriptions already blurred. In front of the stone tablet, a spear was stuck in the ground, with only the back half, about a meter long, protruding. Liu Feng's eyes lit up. The spear emitted a faint energy fluctuation, a fluctuation that only a treasure-level artifact could emit, similar to the iron bone armor he wore. With a flash, Liu Feng appeared beside the spear and pulled it out without hesitation. The moment he pulled it out, a powerful burst of flames shot into the sky. Not good. Liu Feng's expression changed. This flame was far too intense, a flame that was 40 feet tall. It could probably be seen from 1,000 meters away. Sure enough, in less than a dozen moments, several auras appeared and began to converge on this side. Liu Feng frowned and tossed the fiery red spear into the void ring. Whoosh! Soon, 4 figures appeared around Liu Feng. Among them were strong men and young men, and they appeared to be family members and adventurers. The strongest of them was a 4th-level swordsman, while the rest were 3rd level. The strongest of the group, the burly man in blood-red robes, spoke first, his gaze sweeping over Liu Feng. Boy, what was that treasure just now? Hand it over now, or I'll spare your life. There's no treasure at all, just ordinary stuff, Liu Feng said, his expression unchanged. Do you think we're fools? That intense energy fluctuation must be a treasure. Hand it over right now. Such a treasure is not something a nobody like you can obtain. Don't seek your own death. While intimidating Liu Feng with their words, the 4 slowly approached, intending to kill Liu Feng first and seize the treasure. Treasures are good, but you have to be alive to get them. Liu Feng sneered. It seemed these people thought he was fish on a chopping board to be killed at will. Unfortunately, they were all wrong, terribly wrong. Die! The adventurer closest to Liu Feng made the first move, raising his hand and smashing a meteor hammer down with tremendous force. Madness. Liu Feng remained motionless, a magical spear appearing in his hand. He thrust it out with a backhand motion, the sharp energy tearing through the air at incredible speed. No! Before the adventurer could even see the trajectory of the spear, his throat was pierced through, and an expression of disbelief remained on his dead face. This man is troublesome. Let's kill him together. Seeing Liu Feng kill one of them with lightning speed, the other 3 were shocked. The man in blood also looked grim and roared in a show of bravado but inwardly weak voice. With his treasured spear in hand, Liu Feng was like a war god descended to earth. He used the spear instead of a sword, and his swordsmanship was as smooth as flowing water. He fought against 3 opponents and was not at a disadvantage at all. The 3 grew increasingly alarmed as the battle progressed. They had never encountered such a terrifying first-tier swordsman before. Even with the help of a magical weapon, there were still 3 of them. Moreover, the man in blood was a 4th-tier swordsman, 3 levels higher than their opponents. Use the killing move. The blood-stained man roared at the other 2. Upon hearing this, the other 2 gritted their teeth. If they had known that the other party was so difficult to deal with, they shouldn't have tried to take advantage of him. But it was too late to say anything now.
If Liu Feng died, they would die.
Severing kills sword. Wildfire spreads across the plains. Skyrending and cloud-dispelling palm. The 3 unleashed their signature skills, and in an instant, sword energy crisscrossed and dust billowed. Seeing this, Liu Feng's eyes narrowed, and his spear spun at his waist, drawing a perfect arc. The scorching air radiated outwards, blocking all 3 of their attacks. However, as the other 2 retreated, a ruthless glint flashed in the eyes of the man in blood. He cleaved through the air currents with his sword and attacked Liu Feng from behind. "You're courting death." Liu Feng's senses were incredibly sharp. He couldn't possibly miss the blood-stained man's little movements. Phantom sword. With a counterattack, the spear shadows were numerous, both real and illusory. This was the second move of the quick sword technique, which required a very high level of control over the wind element. Its power was several times stronger than the first move, Gale Sword. Liu Feng had only managed to comprehend it by chance 2 days ago. The man in blood-stained clothes paled. Before he could even see the trajectory of the spear, dozens of charred holes appeared on his body. The fatal blow was to his forehead, a single, fatal strike, from which blood gushed out continuously. Run! Even the strongest man in blood-red robes couldn't withstand Liu Feng's sword strike. The other 2 dared not have any other thoughts. They channeled their true energy and fled in the opposite direction. Liu Feng's strength truly terrified them, and they didn't even have the slightest courage to continue fighting. But it's too late to run now. Liu Feng was well aware of the principle of eliminating the root of the problem. He would not let either of them go. One of them was slower and had his head blown off by Liu Feng. The other was already hundreds of meters away. Before he could even feel relieved, he felt a heat in his chest. Looking down, he saw a spearhead, like a spiraling flame, pierce through his body and pin him to a large tree. Chapter 17 Killing Luo Xiong. Liu Feng's expression was solemn. The opponent in front of him was far more powerful than the previous ones, probably reaching the level of a 5th-order swordsman. At this level, Liu Feng was not yet a match for him. Even though he couldn't defeat his opponent, Liu Feng showed no fear. His extraordinary mental strength repelled all negative emotions, and all fear and panic were driven away. In his heart, only endless fighting spirit remained. Phantom sword. With a flick of the spear, a barrage of spear shadows spread out, and scorching energy emanated from the spearhead, crackling and popping in the air. A trivial skill. Luo Xiong sneered, and without even drawing his sword, he let out a loud roar and struck out with his palm. Boom! The mountain-like palm pressure caused the ground to collapse, and the surrounding withered trees were snapped in half, creating an astonishing force. The numerous spear shadows were instantly shattered, but the force of the fist was also greatly weakened, and was easily broken by Liu Feng in the next moment. "It seems you're not bad after all, worthy of making me draw my sword." Luo Xiong's eyes turned cold, and he quickly drew his sword from its sheath, channeling streams of true energy into the blade, causing the surrounding air to violently tremble. Cloud-piercing slash. With a single slash, the immense sword energy, like a giant pair of scissors, cut a slit in the void and swiftly cleaved towards the very center of Liu Feng. Liu Feng's hair and robes were whipped backward by the fierce sword wind, as if he would be cleaved in 2 at any moment. This was a full-force strike from a 5th-tier swordsman. Even an ordinary 4th-tier expert would be terrified and powerless to resist under such a blow. Liu Feng had no concept of defense. He met sword with sword, his spear meeting the attack head-on.
Boom.
Although the magical spear absorbed most of the impact, some of the force still acted on Liu Feng, sending him flying. The disadvantage in cultivation level was immediately exposed, and this gap could not be made up for in a short time by skill alone. The gap is still quite large. A trickle of blood oozed from the corner of his mouth. Liu Feng slowly stood up from the ground, a solemn expression creeping onto his pale face. This was the first time he had ever been at a disadvantage in a fight. The situation had become extremely urgent and dire. Just accept your death. To be honest, I'm quite interested in you. With only a first-level cultivation and an extra low-grade magic weapon, you've managed to kill 4 experts several levels higher than you. What secrets are you hiding?
But you don't need to tell me now.
You'll find out after I kill you. A sinister smile appeared on Luo Xiong's face. He licked his scarlet tongue and approached Liu Feng step by step. Oops. Liu Feng's expression changed. His secrets were all inside the void ring, which contained the magic swordsman's manual that could make him stronger. He absolutely could not let it fall into the hands of others, especially those with wicked intentions. He bears the great responsibility of avenging Ouyang Gyush. Is he really going to die here like this? His journey in another world has only just begun, yet it's about to end here? This is absolutely unacceptable. Seeing the struggle in Liu Feng's expression, Luo Xiong felt only pleasure. He loved seeing other people's expressions of despair, and for some reason, he just liked that feeling. The reason he approached Liu Feng so slowly was to subject him to psychological torment and slowly break him down. He thoroughly enjoyed the feeling of toying with his enemy. As the footsteps drew closer, the despair in Liu Feng's heart was amplified until it filled his entire mind. Am I going to die? Is this the end of my life? Despair enveloped his entire body, and Liu Feng felt an inexplicable chill rising from within him, gradually taking over his mind and body. At this moment, Luo Xiong had already walked up to Liu Feng, a cruel smile on his face, and raised his sword, ready to strike directly down. Suddenly, Liu Feng suddenly raised his head, his eyes wide open, and his pupils turned a stark white. The next instant, a sword light flashed through the void. The entire world seemed to freeze at this moment, as a stream of blood spurted out and splashed onto the ground. What's going on? I can see my own back through my head. Luo Xiong's eyes widened as he felt his body receding into the distance, his vision reaching only his back, while his target slowly stood up. That strange feeling filled him with immense panic. A bloody human head fell to the ground and rolled several times. Death came too quickly. Perhaps in the end, Luo Xiong never understood how he died. How is this possible? Upon seeing this scene, Luo Tian, who was not far away, turned pale and looked incredulous. Luo Xiong was the leading figure of the younger generation of his Luo family. At the age of 20, he had already reached the level of a fifth-order swordsman. He was already a genius, and his strength was beyond question. Yet, in just a moment, his head was chopped off. Liu Feng's eyes were filled with the deep white color. He then took a step forward, each step seemingly in sync with the rhythm of the surrounding heaven and earth power. His gaze was fixed on Luo Tian opposite him. Rustle. Hearing the footsteps that sounded like the arrival of death, Luo Tian's heart was in his throat, but he felt like he couldn't move at all. It was as if he would be paralyzed if Liu Feng's gaze was fixed on him. Hateful. While filled with fear, Luo Tian felt a surge of intense resentment. He was destined to become the future head of the Luo family and dominate Xianzhou Prefecture. How could he be killed here? As Liu Feng slowly approached, the resentment in Luo Tian's eyes grew stronger. Finally, he broke free from his restraints and thrust his sword out, aiming straight for Liu Feng's throat, intending to kill him with one blow. If it were an ordinary person, they might avoid the enemy's sharp edge and retreat temporarily in this situation. However, at this moment, Liu Feng's heart was occupied by despair, all emotions were dispelled, and only endless killing remained. Therefore, he showed a posture of fighting life with life and exchanging injuries for injuries, not retreating even a step,
but instead speeding up. Luo family sword. Annihilate them all. Luo Tian had already disregarded his own life. Success or failure hinged on this one move. Since fleeing would mean certain death anyway, he might as well take a gamble and have a slim chance of survival. Kill. In the void, all the sword lights converged at one point, and the spear in Liu Feng's hand seemed to transform into a blood-red lightning bolt, piercing towards Luo Tian's chest. This was undoubtedly a very dangerous move. Liu Feng did not put up any defense and adopted a completely offensive approach. In other words, whoever attacked first would win, while the other would be killed instantly. This world seemed to freeze in time.
Call out.
The gleaming long sword suddenly stopped a fraction of an inch from Liu Feng's throat. The sharp tip of the sword had already pierced the skin on Liu Feng's neck, and a trickle of blood seeped out. You! Luo Tian's body suddenly twitched, and he looked down at his chest. He saw that the fiery red spear had pierced through his chest, charring the surrounding flesh black. The difference is only a hair's breadth, but even a slight error can lead to a huge mistake. In such a life-or-death duel, the slightest carelessness can result in one side losing their life, while the other remains unharmed.
Bang.
Liu Feng gently placed his palm on Luo Tian's body, and then Luo Tian collapsed with a thud, his eyes gradually losing their luster. Call. After doing all this, Liu Feng felt as if all his strength had been drained, and he sat heavily on the ground, panting heavily. This battle was extremely dangerous. If he hadn't grasped the essence of despair at the last moment, it probably wouldn't be these two lying on the ground right now, but him. Liu Feng pondered to himself. It seems he must be more careful in the future. He can't always break through at the last moment when he encounters danger. This time it was purely good luck, but he probably won't be so lucky next time. After resting with his eyes closed for about 15 minutes, Liu Feng slowly stood up from the ground. However, just as he was about to leave, he suddenly discovered a shocking sight. The corpses of Luo Xiong and the others had all vanished without a trace. The entire scorched earth was completely empty. Not even a single corpse could be seen.